And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Armed American Radio's Monster Cast begins right now. Car Firearms Group studios are lit up. The Patriot Mobile Communication and Command Center is lit up. The on-air signs are flashing. It's all brought to you by the NRA, and we're in front of the CZ Mike. Greg in Dallas, Texas. How you doing, my brother?
Pretty good, man. Just trying to stay cool on this end.
Here we are. It's a hot one today.
Oh, it's a real hot one.
I got a lot of sun yesterday. You can probably tell if you're looking at me on camera, but that's okay. Kind of is what it is. I tried to change the lighting a little bit. Boy, Greg and I tell each other every Friday, we'll see you soon. I'll see you too soon. And it seemed like yesterday, soon. Didn't it? Wow, it really did. Hey, yeah. Well, we got fun stuff going on. I've got about 36 pages of notes. I'm not going to get to anywhere near all of it. And the show is going to focus, ladies and gentlemen, predominantly on the NFA and the things that you need to know and what is actually happening out there in the world of gun rights that is historic and changing by the minute. We'll cover some other areas as well. I do want to throw this out that Rob Pincus was scheduled to join us for the half hour. He's kind enough to stay for the hour. AWR Hawkins was unable to come in with us today for travel purposes. Unfortunately, he didn't make it back to where he was supposed to be, so Rob is kind enough to do that. Hour 2, we have Jared Yanis from Guns and Gadgets for the hour. Lots of information there, and a classic roundtable with the crew, Brad, Ryan, and, of course, Justin Moon. Greg, I'll let you do your thing. We're on all of our platforms, but Rumble, have at it. We'll get started with Rob.
Yeah, sure. Places to watch the show are going to be YouTube and Facebook. Just do a search for Armed American Radio with Mark Walters. If you're over on X and want to watch us, just search for @AAR Mark. You can always head over to armedamericanradio.org or .com. Hit that menu icon, then select your watch live or listen live option. And to join our live chat, all you have to do is download Telegram, create your profile, and search for Armed American Radio Conversations.
Yeah, that'll do it. Rob, give me Pointing Rob. Give me Pointing.
I hate Pointing Rob.
Hold on a second, ladies and gentlemen. Here's what I'm talking about. Let me pull him down. There's Pointing Rob. Where is he? There's Pointing Rob, okay? He doesn't like Pointing Rob. I happen to really like Pointing Rob. So, now I got to figure out how to get you back in here. Here we go. Hold on. Let's get you back in here. Where's Rob? There's Rob.
Oh, boy.
There's Rob. There's Rob. We'll get him in there. All right, Rob, go ahead, man. You're good. I got you small.
I'll tell you, I like Pointing Rob isn't nearly as bad as Pointing Jared.
Oh, well,
Pointing Jared looks mad.
Well, I told it to give a menacing look.
Oh, that's pretty menacing. I'm going to stay tuned in for the second hour to see what he's so mad about. He should be pretty happy. I'm actually in Tennessee now, where he has relocated himself to. So he should be pretty happy being here in one of the freedom states, right?
Yeah, and I want to talk to you about Georgia being a freedom state as well. We'll get into that in a few moments with the NFA deal, ladies and gentlemen. Rob, where we've been the last couple of months has been nothing short of, wow, how do we keep up with it, quite frankly? Every time you wake up, there's something different. There's something new in areas that we've all wanted to happen. We've waited, it seems like, forever to get here. We get here, and some of us kind of don't know how to react because it happened so quick when we would usually phrase these conversations with, we know we're not getting it as fast as we want. And then it just seems like, wham, bam, Sam, here we are, brother, So kind of walk us through your thoughts before we get into some nuts and bolts about the NFA. And we will get into some nuts and bolts, ladies and gentlemen, I promise you.
Yeah, it's important to get into those nuts and bolts to really understand where we are, and also that we isn't all of us, right? We were just kind of joking about the freedom states and the not so freedom states and the very much not so freedom states that are going to have to deal with this all differently. Then you've got the issue of, are you a member of an organization? Did you buy something from this person? Did you buy something from the other person? You're going to spend the next 3 hours talking about that. I'm going to be around for a while. I think it's important to embrace the win as we try to figure out what the win is, because the biggest problem isn't, to me, the excitement that we're moving forward. It's the people that are mad because we didn't. You're talking about the leaps we're making, and we are making leaps, and we see a few other hills that we're about to climb over as well over the next year or two. But there are still people who just aren't happy. And then you've got other people, the people like I'm reminded for years and years and years, in my original home state of New Jersey, people gave up on concealed carry. People swore to me every time I brought it up. Every time I said, you should be putting in your application. You should be pushing your state level congressman. It'll never happen here. It'll never happen here. It'll never happen here. Well, it's happened there. People have said in Hawaii, it'll never happen there, never there. The last 3 years, I've been going 2 or 3 times a year teaching and doing instructor development because of the explosion of concealed carry that's happened in Hawaii. And now we are on the precipice of seeing a huge change, the biggest change in our lifetimes, the biggest change in gun law in almost 100 years, the rolling back of the National Firearms Act provisions that restrict us on the most mundane and inane things like taking a few inches off of a barrel to make a gun easier to move around a house with, or easy to move around in a hunting field, or easy to take in and out of your car and out of a bag, whatever it might be. Maybe somebody who doesn't have as much upper body strength wants to be able to use a rifle but doesn't want to have a big heavy barrel hanging out in front. Take a few inches off. That's what we do in other places in the world, right? When I'm teaching in Italy, nobody's worried about barrel length. When I'm teaching in South Africa, nobody's worried about barrel length. When I'm teaching in Mexico, nobody's worried about barrel length. Here we have to worry about barrel length, and maybe not for much longer, and I think it's very exciting.
I think it's important we frame this not just for our conversation, but for the beginning of the show. And we're going to get back to a lot of what you said. But I think it's very important we mention Congress did not repeal the NFA. You see a lot of nonsense all over social media. The NFA was not repealed, ladies and gentlemen. I want to throw that down as the platform that we're standing on here. Congress may have pulled out the Jenga, the constitutional Jenga block. Remember that game, Jenga? Might have pulled that block holding much of it up, but did not repeal it. And the killer question that we're going to keep returning to throughout the broadcast is, if the NFA was constitutional because it was a tax law, and the tax law is now zero, what constitutional authority allows Washington to keep the registry at all now going forward? That's the rest of the Jenga blocks in there, Rob, that we're going to start to see fall, I hope. Did I frame that the right way? It's kind of hard to articulate, but I want to make sure we're starting on the right footing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there are people. If people, I would send people to Adam Kraut, who's the guy leading the Second Amendment Foundation right now on that legal battle that SAF is involved in, and the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms, which I know you're a board member of. Adam Kraut did an amazing job of breaking down the what we know, what we don't know, and including the what we know that's good and some of the what we know that isn't as good as we'd like it to be yet. With Mr. Guns and Gear, they did a great video a couple days ago. I put it up on my social media. I think it's definitely, for people who have questions, if you want to hear it from a lawyer, go hear it from Adam. What we're going to talk about tonight, I think, is more of the, obviously we're not lawyers. It's our understanding as educated people, paying a lot of attention, talking to a lot of lawyers and listening to a lot of lawyers about this. No, the NFA was not repealed. The NFA hasn't gone away. People, if you follow my social media, I posted yesterday morning a screenshot from one of my group chats with other people in the industry. A guy was out fishing with his son, caught a beautiful fish. I said, "Oh man, I can't wait." He's a cook. I said, "I can't wait to see you put that together for the table later." And he said, "Oh, we can't keep them." And one of the other guys in the thread said, "Wait a minute, we repealed the NFA. No one can tell you can't keep a fish." And I asked him if he was a member of, if you're not a member of GOA, come on, you can keep all the fish you want if you're a member of GOA. So it's joking, but unfortunately there are some people out there who are very seriously saying, just bad information. They're thinking that some things have happened that haven't. What has happened, as you alluded to, is not a Second Amendment issue at all. Technically, what we have is a tax issue.
Correct.
And I think we've all questioned, the validity of the NFA for a whole bunch of reasons. But what held it up, and what the Department of Justice, the U.S. government, has used to keep it intact for decades, is this tax provision. Right. And they said, well, we need the record keeping for the taxes. Now, I would argue you don't need a background check, you don't need pictures, you don't need a fingerprint to give me a receipt that I paid a tax. So it was kind of BS all along, the lengths to which the NFA required you to jump through hoops. It wasn't simply a receipt for paying a tax, right? We don't have to turn in fingerprints, and we turn in our federal tax returns every year, right? So that was kind of silly that they had all these other provisions tied to it. Well, yeah. So, but at the same time, now that the tax was removed to zero, the big beautiful bill last year, kind of a silly name, but that's what it is, and we got to keep saying it. But we also have to give it a lot of credit, and a lot of people called this out. Mark Smith, a lot of people know him, Four Boxes Diner. He was one of the guys who he just recently, in the last day or two, has played the video that he did from last June when he said, "Hey, this is the chink in the armor that's going to get us to possibly getting out from under the NFA forever." And obviously, Congressman Clyde was very involved in that original part of the big beautiful bill. They pushed to do more. They couldn't do more. And he was a leader with the congressional voices that urged the Department of Justice not to appeal this decision. You've got other people saying, well, gee, we wish they had appealed the decision. This is another one of the big misinformation pieces that's floating around out there, is the reason that some lawyers and some laymen have argued it's been better to appeal is that then this decision could have gone from a district court up to the Fifth Circuit.
Get in there.
All right, Rob knows we're getting ready.
About that after the break, I guess.
We're going to talk about that after the break. Rob knows the hand signals, guys. When we come back, lots and lots and lots to cover. Buckle in. We'll figure it all out for you. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Back in, my brother, to the Car Firearms Group studios. Let me take you to Georgia quickly. I saw a Facebook post. Someone commented today on the upcoming broadcast that we had scheduled online for today's national broadcast. And it said, I live in the free state of Florida, and we're now freer than Georgia when it comes to suppressors. And I thought, well, we're going to, now that I saw that comment, I'm going to talk about that with you. And here's why. You and I talked about it privately over the last few days. Georgia was one of the states that we were referring to. Suppressors have been legal in the state of Georgia since 2014. There are no state hoops to go through, no state hurdles to jump over, none. As long as you complied with the NFA, and that was, for example, going to one of the kiosks, because if it was a silencer shop, you did the trust, just like everybody else had to do. Those hurdles, as of right now, have been removed. Whether they stay, what happens down the road, that's the nuance. So what makes Georgia any different than Florida at this point, Rob? We're not Washington State.
Well, I told you that one of the things I wanted to try to do is talk about some of the myths that are out there, right? At the end last break, we talked about the idea that there's a lot of people saying this only applies to the Fifth Circuit. Not true.
No.
The Fifth Circuit has nothing to do with this. If anything, it only applies to a district in northern Texas, if you want to look at the jurisdiction of the judge. But he has enjoined these laws for all of the named plaintiffs to include members and customers, and that's why it's actually going to affect people nationwide. So people are misunderstanding that. But the effects nationwide still are subject to state law and federal law under the Gun Control Act. Now, there's an issue of the Attorney General's permission, which we think is just going to go away. That's just a memo. We aren't too worried about that under the Gun Control Act. What we are worried about is the individual states. There's a chart that's been going around, and I understand it originally maybe came from Silencer Shop, but this chart, it's got red, it's got green, and it's got yellow in the middle. Georgia is one of those states in the middle. North Carolina, a state that I've been spending a lot of time in, obviously, because Avidity Arms is headquartered there. I own property there. Even though I'm a legal resident of Florida, I've spent a lot of time in North Carolina, and North Carolina is one of those yellow states as well. Washington is another yellow state. But I want to point out three distinct things about those three states that are important to understand and why they don't necessarily all fall together. Those yellow states on that chart, the NSA states, as they're being called in a lot of the YouTubes and conversations I'm hearing, they're all different. That you can't just put them into one block and say they're all going to go this way or that way. And the reason for that is that, for example, Georgia uses the word registered. So the way that the state addresses it in the statute in Georgia, it says something to the extent of you can have them as long as they are registered per the U.S. Code section, which is the NFA. Mm-hmm. That's very different from North Carolina, which says as long as you are in compliance with the NFA. It doesn't say that it has to be registered. Just you as an individual need to be in compliance with the NFA, which I think is going to be very, very different for people that are, members, and all the other asterisks, all the other boxes are checked. If you are one of the enjoined parties under this ruling and you're in North Carolina, I think the bar is lower to say, well, I'm in compliance now. That was different last week, as opposed to the actual word registered. Now, the reason I bring up Washington is even more interesting because Washington has two different laws, one covering SBRs and SBSs that says, I think that's where the verbiage of that's where the verbiage references the actual paperwork. I think it might even say something about the tax stamp. And then on the other side, suppressors, it just says in compliance with. So we could end up in a situation where North Carolina goes one way, Georgia goes another way, and in Washington, suppressors go one way and SPRs, SPSs go the other way. And I'll give you one more curveball, Louisiana. Louisiana is also one of those asterisk states. It looks like all the verbiage for ownership and possession is just in compliance with, except for hunting. The hunting regulations in Louisiana actually say that to use a suppressor, you need to have a tax stamp. They mention the stamp. So this is going to be more complex than a lot of people want it to be. I'm okay with that, like I said in the first segment. We are winning. We are moving forward. We need to celebrate that. but there is some dust that has to settle before people know exactly what ground they can stand on firmly under this ruling.
Let's get to the nuance of in compliance with and registration, because as Rush Limbaugh used to say, words mean things. However, if there is no more registration, you are in compliance if there is no more registration, period.
And I think that's the problem, is that the NFA, as we originally said, as you said, we have not gotten rid of the NFA. The registration is still going to be there. When manufacturers under the federal license right now are making them, as far as I know, they're all still making them with the paperwork being filed. They're still registering them as NFA items. Even Silencer Shop, as I understand it, is sending out to any other FFL. They may be selling in their shop on 4473s, but they're still shipping things out on Form 3s. And if for no other reason than the New Jerseys, the Californias, all those states that are in the red, the registry is going to be maintained. The Form 1s, the Form 4s, the Form 3s, those are all going to be maintained, and the operations to support them. I'll be shocked if all of a sudden the Department of Justice just says, no, we're not doing it anymore. And that will potentially screw up people in those yellow states in a way that I think we wouldn't be very excited about. So again, it's unknown territory, but we know the registry. I say no. As much as we know anything, I'd bet that dollar right now, the signed dollar bill, that I was wrong if the paperwork goes away. I think the paperwork's going to stay. It has to stay, as far as I'm concerned, to be able to facilitate the transactions of the dealers, if nothing else, all around the country in those yellow and red states.
And you are an FFL. Greg, how much time do I have?
I'm an FFL SOT.
Greg, how much time do I have?
35
seconds. Here's what I'm going to do, Rob. Let me set this up for the break. When we come back, I want you to walk people through. If someone came to you a month ago to buy a suppressor, I want you to walk them through the steps they had to take. For those of you who know, you know. But there's millions of you out there who don't know, it was never up your alley, or because it was a hassle or you felt it was a hassle, you chose not to do it. Rob's going to walk us through the steps, and that will help tie together, I think, what we're talking about here, Rob, relative to the quote-unquote registration, because words mean things. What's the nuance? Registration in compliance with, when you know exactly what it is, the process you have to go through, or let's say you had to go through, because it's changing by the minute, ladies and gentlemen. It will give you brother. Let's keep this conversation going. I'm going to read some questions or some comments from the chat before I go to the specifics of what we had to go through. I say had. You see, just caught myself. Had to go through, have to go through. That's what we're trying to find out, ladies and gentlemen. We're figuring it out on our own with you. All right, so California curmudgeon, welcome in, brother. Glenn Partial says, the people who aren't happy with the wins have not been involved in this fight for years and years, like some of us have been. Rob, I'd like your comment on that.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I imagine if I'm 25 years old right now, I grew up in a world where lots of people, I'm a gun person who's 25 years old. I probably grew up around a lot of people who were carrying guns. When we started seeing more and more people start carrying guns in the 1990s into the 2000s, we started seeing a lot more shooting ranges because we started seeing a lot more people seeking out instruction, responsibly so, not just because the government made you do it to get the permit. Even through constitutional carry now in 29, 30 states, we still see so many people on the ranges. Competitions exploded, different competitions were developed. 3-gun really caught on. The IDPA was still young in the 90s, So there's a big difference. People that are half our age grew up in a very different world, and they probably want to see changes faster, and probably haven't seen what incremental wins do. That might be the biggest thing. You got to remember, and I'll bet you may have said it. I know that I said it when I was very young in this. I go back 20, 25 years ago, and I was very new to fighting for our gun rights and defending our gun rights. We used to say you never, in defense of, we can't let that assault weapon ban pass because you never regain a lost right. Remember when we used to say that all the time?
You say it all the time.
We know that to not be true. We know that to not be true now. We have regained so many lost rights, and a lot of it was done incrementally through may issue to shall issue to constitutional carry. You don't need any better roadmap than that. It's a roadmap of success. In 1990, and I talk about people who are 25 years old. They weren't even born in 1990 when I moved to Vermont, the only constitutional carry state at the time. That was the first time I was able to legally carry. Now we have most of the country, most of the gun owners in the country.
That would be Vermont, is what you're talking about.
Vermont, yeah, and now even again, we mentioned it in the earlier segment. Even New York City. I can get a non-resident permit in New York City, and I almost want to do it just because I can, because I never thought that day would come. So people aren't used to incremental wins. Maybe they haven't seen the development over time, and I think that comment is spot on.
Yeah, I agree. And the reason I agree with you on the constitutional carry and permit scheme being, it looks like Rob Pincus stream. We've got you with audio only. Looks like his camera dropped, but we do have you with audio, Rob.
I'll be right back.
Okay, there he is.
I'm back.
Okay, I think that roadmap you laid out when it comes to permitting is absolutely 100% spot on, because I go back to 1987 in Florida. I moved to Florida in 1990, 91. First thing I did was get my permit. I was so happy I had my Florida carry permit. Loved it. Loved my Florida carry permit. So happy I had that license for permission to exercise a constitutional right, because that's the way it was. There was no other option at the time unless you wanted to carry a gun illegally, which I did for a long time in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Okay, this is going back into the mid to late 80s, ladies and gentlemen. And then Florida becomes in 1987 the state that rolls out, that becomes the model for states across the country. And yeah, Rob, using Illinois is a great example. I myself ate crow on this program. I told people, if you want your permit, you're going to have to leave Illinois. It's that simple. It's never going to happen. 2 years later, Illinois has got permits. So we do get them back. And now we've got constitutional carry with over half the country now not needing a permit. We had to go through that process, sadly, and it took decades before we could fix it. And now we're here now, and all of these things are kind of piling up on us at one time. California Curmudgeon says, I'm happy for all of you in free states. I've spent my last couple of days applying for jobs outside of California. I'm happy even though it does little for California. That's interesting. Will California see a change?
Oh, I think so. I think they're going to see a big change next year when the Supreme Court rules on assault weapon bans, for sure. And then once that happens, then they're in business with whatever happens with the NFA as well. But I think he's got the right attitude. Now, I don't criticize people who obviously have a lot of friends and family that still live in Jersey, right? Like, people have the lives they have the businesses they have, the family, the friends, the property they own. There's a million reasons why people don't leave those states, and they fight harder for their Second Amendment rights than anybody in Texas or Oklahoma or Wyoming does. So I applaud them for pushing through, and I think that guy's got the right attitude.
Yeah, Rapsnick here says, whatever Rob Pincus's opinions may be, it would be foolish to disregard his knowledge and skill as a trainer. He's top of that line. I miss seeing him and listening to him. Rob, you've been on the program quite a bit lately. And when it comes to this, and there's a reason for that, ladies and gentlemen, this is Rob's wheelhouse. Rob's been doing this, building things, and been doing this very publicly to a point where I've actually called him and warned him before, concerned that he was going to find himself as a test case. And, I'm not looking out for you as dad. I'm not your dad. But you've taken some bold action out there, and you've done it publicly, and I applaud you for that, and so do many, many other people. There was another comment in here from Texas Huntsman, I believe. Let me see if I can find it. Says, I may not agree with Rob on everything, but it says, I don't agree with Rob on many things, but he has this one right, and that this ruling makes things as clear as mud, especially the purple states. Now, the reason TX, I love that question, and the reason, or that comment, which I'm going to kind of phrase it as a question, because Rob, the question out of that statement becomes, is it really what we just saw happen at the federal level that's creating the muddy waters? I'm going to tell you it's not. You tell me if I'm wrong. It's where the states are that is creating the mud. If you look at what we just talked about in Georgia, the nuance between Georgia and North Carolina, for example, it's that verbiage at the state level. If that verbiage didn't exist, there would be no muddy water. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, no, I do think there would still be muddy water, because we do have to see what the guidance is going to be from the enforcement plan. Sorry, I lost my video. We'll try to get it back here in a second, but I want to talk about this. This is important, because I do think we have to remember that, yes, there is a lot of muddy water because of, again, that one lingering phrase in the Gun Control Act, and we think that's just going to go away with Todd Blanche, now that he's been sworn in, just blanketly saying, hey, I approve of things happening in a different way under the ruling for state purposes and for GCA purposes. That's fine. I do think that what we're going to see is something very much like what we saw with the pistol braces, where it was originally a potentially narrow ruling, and then it got expanded very quickly once the Department of Justice and the ATF looked at it and said, well, there's no way we can say, for this guy in the same place, in the same state, doing the same thing, it's okay, and for this other person, it's not. So they kind of threw their hands up. All indications are, and I think people are maybe putting some words in some certain people's mouths, but the indications, back channel, quiet channel, people who know, people who know, people who know, all the same guys you're talking to are telling me that this administration, this Department of Justice, this ATF is not going to push very hard, and in fact might let this go as a nationwide, universal, and then you're right. Then the muddy water goes away at the federal level. The state verbiage is going to be the muddy water, and again, I think it's not going to be that hard. I was thinking like Ohio already has a bill. I think Georgia might already have a bill written. Those states, I think it's going to go pretty fast. A state like a very purple state like North Carolina, where for various reasons the Democrats seem to have the momentum in North Carolina, I don't know if it can be wiped away very quickly and easily in North Carolina. One of the things people say they don't always agree with me and this and that. One of the reasons people, as you know, we've talked about it a lot, don't always agree with me is because I'll sit down at the table with anybody. And when they're talking about new gun laws, I want to be in the room. Doesn't mean I support new gun laws, but when a new gun law comes across the table, like, for example, this work I did it with Tufts University last year on the Bridging the Divide project, which has gotten a little bit of attention. One of the things that I made sure was in that policy proposal at the state level, there were a lot of wins baked in for gun owners. One of the things that I made sure, and other people that were on the obviously pro-gun rights side made sure was in there, was get rid of all the redundant laws over firearms issues that are covered at the federal level, which is exactly what we're all talking about right now. And this was last July that we've all, raised our hands and voted to keep that in that, or put that and then keep that in that package subsequently.
Rob, hold that thought. Rob, hold that thought. We're going to take a break. You can't see me put my fist up for you. Guys, we've only got about 10 seconds to go. When we come back, more with Rob Pincus, and we'll get to that here. I'll give you the final word on that, Rob, and then let's just jump right back into what happens, because this is where the nuance is that's going to be changing. What happens when somebody wants to buy a suppressor or SBR or SBS? Final word on the comments, and then go for that. Rob, we got you. You're silent. Let's go ahead and bring your mic up. Here we go.
I think his phone's muted.
There we go. Just go ahead. You're good. Stay
okay.
With us. There you go.
I was working on the video during a break and I lost the audio. So all the comments are correct. But remember, we're here now talking about this because there's a change happening, right? We can't live in fear of change. We've been fighting for change. Changes are going to happen. We've got a lot more W's than we do L's over the last few decades. Some big, big W's as well. I think this is a big one. I think this is going to get bigger, as we talked about in the last segment. I think this is going to get expanded. I think this is going to become de facto and practically the end of the NFA for functional, practical purposes for a lot of people for a long time. Is it possible it could change back? Absolutely. Do we not celebrate now? Do we not jump into this now? Do we not enjoy the freedom while we have it? One of the points that's being made by a lot of people right now, for those people who are being negative Nancy's, let's say, they try to find a way to say this politely. If you're being negative, if you're being a downer on this, if you're not affected by this, you live in New Jersey and you wish it had gone bigger, we're going to get there.
The cavalry is coming.
And one of the most important ways for us to get there is the common use language.
Yes.
Now, I would argue that we already have so many suppressors out there that are in common use. I would argue that the things people are concerned about when it comes to short-barreled rifles, braced pistols make the point, as the anti-gunners always like to point out, that they're practically the same. Well, they're in common use too. But I think this is going to get it even more over the wall so far that if and when this ends up in front of the Supreme Court Court's going to have no other option than to say, because of those states that are in the green, and I think most, if not all of those states that are in the yellow very soon, all the gun owners there that are now buying true SBRs and true SBSs and making them, buying suppressors on a 4473 and making them at home without filing special purpose paperwork, well, that's going to make it even more obvious that these things are in common use and cannot be banned by New Jersey, New York, California et al., or any future administration, even at the federal level. That's going to be really important, and that's why it's so important to celebrate this, take advantage of it as soon as we can, as soon as you believe you're on firm footing, legally take advantage of these opportunities that are going to present themselves to you so that we can make this argument even more solidly in front of the Supreme Court when it eventually gets there.
Let me give you some numbers, Rob. I'm glad you brought that up. Right now, according to ATF, data cited, suppressors, over 6.4 million. Ladies and gentlemen, that's in common use. And I want to give you some numbers. Just from May alone, just 2 months back, ATF reported receiving 121,117 Form 4s for suppressors and finalizing more than 123,000 silencer Form 4 applications. That's May, ladies and gentlemen. And those numbers are going to fly off the charts. That's one area of the firearms industry over the last 2 years that has been absolutely booming, and it is just going to get significantly better. And those of you that do live in places like New Jersey, I see a lot of comments coming in right now. And guys, the cavalry is in fact coming. If you listen carefully when you go to bed tonight, you can hear the hoofs. You can hear the beats of the horses on the ground. It is coming. And it's coming faster than we thought it was going to happen over the course of the last couple of months, Rob, isn't it?
It is. I'm going to answer your question. I know these segments go fast. I'm going to try to do it fast. And you, by the way, have been doing a great job moving into the video age, but this is radio. So people are going to have to count along with me on their own hands. But for those people watching, I'm going to use my hand to try to count the steps, and I'm going to make a point here. When someone wants to buy a suppressor, forget about these changes. If it was 2 months ago, they have to pick out the suppressor they want. That's first step. They have to find a dealer. But they can't just find a regular dealer. In fact, I'm going to put this on my other hand. They have to find a dealer that has an SOT, a dealer that deals in these items, not just a regular dealer. So you got to find a dealer. You got to find the suppressor. Once you have now you have to fill out special paperwork. You have to send in a photo. You have to send in fingerprints, and you have to wait. Then you get your approval back, and then you actually have to fill out a 4473 because a suppressor is a firearm and take it home. Notice one hand has 5 steps, the other hand has 2. That's 7 steps. Quick math, right?
Yep.
These 5 go away. If under these new provisions, when all is said and done, you pick out your suppressor and buy it, you fill out a 4473 and you take it home. Those are the 2 steps. And by the way, if you are covered under this, the manufacturing clauses of the NFA are also enjoined. And if you're covered under this and you're in one of those states where you can do this without the paperwork, or we decide that in compliance with is good enough, you just turn your printer on, or you go to Home Depot and you buy the parts and you turn your welder on, and you have one step. You just make yourself that suppressor that you want. If you have a long-barreled shotgun that you want to turn into a short-barreled shotgun, you can use the hacksaw, you can use the cutoff wheel, you can use the pipe cutter, you can use the sawzall, whatever your method you want to do, you can cut that shotgun down and have it look like the one we all remember before with C. Thomas Howell cutting his barrel down in a rage in Red Dawn, right? I think that was the first moment I decided I want to do that. And then I found out, wow, I was 12 years old. If I'd have done it, it would have been a felony and a problem. But
that's okay.
You know, I posted that story.
You've been out there public, and that's a beautiful thing. 7 steps down to 2.
7
Rob,
steps to 2.
We're at the end. You're right. You got to buckle in. Time goes by. Where can people find you real quick? Got about 20 seconds.
Go to personaleventsnetwork.com for the training information. Follow me at Pincus Rob or Rob Pincus on all the social medias. I'll be putting out updates to people that are more knowledgeable than me as we go through this next week or two and figure out where we really.
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate it. Thanks for being here, and thanks for sticking with us for the hour in the absence of AWR Hawkins. That's Rob Pincus, everybody. And welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. Hour 2 of Armed American Radio's Monster Cast, heard on hundreds of radio stations around the nation, begins right now. You're in the Car Firearms Group studios with me, the Patriot Mobile Command Center fired up for you, the CZ microphone lit up, and it's all being brought to you by the National Rifle Association. Join them, please, at nra.org/AAR and get in this fight, ladies and gentlemen, as well as joining all of your states' rights organizations, including FloridaCarry.org. We'll be talking to Florida Carry on the Daily Defense coming up this week and likely next weekend as well. With a big push for them over the next 90 days. Greg in Dallas, Tejas, how you doing, my brother from another mala?
Not too bad, man.
Hour 2, we're on a roll. We need to put our seatbelts on. Chat's been very, very active. Guys, keep the comments coming. We've got the hour with Jared Yanis. Greg's going to tell you where you can watch the show and participate in the chat. And if you want to talk with Jared Yanis via me in the chat, fire away. Greg, get started. Help us out.
Yeah, sure. Places to watch the show are going to be YouTube and Facebook. Just do a search for Armed American Radio with Mark Walters. If you're on X, you can watch us at AAR Mark. You can always head over to armedamericanradio.org or .com. Hit that menu icon, then select your watch live or listen live option. And to join our live chat, just download Telegram, create your profile, and search for Armed American Radio Conversations.
That'll do it. Jared Yanis, you're looking good, brother. You're looking good, brother. How you doing, man?
Good to see. Oh, sorry, that's my can. How's it going, buddy? Good to see you.
Yo, so pull that back up again. That was classic. All right, so
Silencer code right there.
Silencer code. Tell me when you got that.
I actually had this one pre-existing, but I figured to give them a little love since they put out and helped the country.
Boy, they did, didn't they?
Absolutely.
You know,
It's the biggest Second Amendment win, probably definitely in our lifetime, probably in the history of this nation with gun control.
you and I had that same conversation a month ago about a completely different topic. The exact same words, ladies and gentlemen. You can go back and watch. We said the same thing. Hamani, we said the same thing. Wolford, we said the same thing when SCOTUS agreed to take the 2 hardware cases, and here we are now saying this. So let's kind of hopscotch. Let's go one on top of the other. Which one's the biggest? This has got to be it, I think.
This is it, man, by far. I mean, who would have thought we'd be sitting here today talking about the death of the National Firearms Act?
Right?
92 years in the making. We've never had this opportunity, and it's dead in the water.
Is it dead in the water? There's some nuance at the
man,
state level, but I want to hear it from you guys. Before Jared, before you run, I got to tell you guys, I'm on the Guns and Gadgets YouTube channel right now. I'm there all the time. Fun stuff. If you're not, by all means, make sure to visit and subscribe, if you would, to Guns and Gadgets at YouTube and help Jared get close to 1 million. He's close to 1 million anyway. But I look at your view count here just over the last 2 weeks. You're if you haven't topped over 1 million views, you're damn close to it, brother. Okay.
It's been a good couple weeks.
It has been a really good couple. And what's made it good is because you're out there. Sometimes, I know how much work goes into these videos, and boy, you've been doing this for 17, 18 years. And I don't think there's anybody better at it than you. And you've got a lot of topics. I want to try to get to all of them. But at the same time, what I notice about what you're doing here is there seems to be something different each day, and which we knew. Guys, Jared and I talk. You've talked with Rob. Everybody within the community talks about how are we going to approach this? What's actually happening? Are we all on the same page? Do we understand this? How do we form our opinions? What does the law say? What do you know that I don't know? Have you talked to so-and-so? And that's where you clarify this stuff in your videos really, really well. Your latest video came out, I think, if I'm not mistaken, just 6 hours ago.
Probably. It's just a blur, man. I just keep going and going.
Was the neighbor cutting the grass 6 hours ago? Because the neighbor was cutting the grass a couple of days ago when you were out there too.
No, it looks immaculate outside.
Okay, good. That's a good thing. We don't want to hear that on the radio. But so where are we? Let's talk about this historic win, because I agree with you. And I never thought I would say this myself either, particularly after SCOTUS agreed to take 2 hardware ban cases, which we know are going to shut down gun bans across the country. And here we are with this. And you and I are telling well over 1.5 million people plus that this is even bigger. Why?
Well, I know a lot of people, rightfully so, are frustrated if they're in that camp where they're not covered by this injunction at the moment.
That's easy to fix.
But what I want people to do is think about it like this. We're on a big game hunt. We just saw the biggest, baddest apex predator out there, the National Firearms Act. We took our shot. It's bleeding out now, and we're tracking it through the woods. And it's only a couple short days to maybe a week before we have it in our sight and we can dress it out. There's no way this is going to stay flopping and floundering. A little bird has told me we can probably expect some guidance from DOJ ATF in the early part of the week here. And there are efforts by Andrew Clyde in Congress, as well as some pressure on the Attorney General Todd Blanche to make some changes there so that it is nationwide as well. So the troops are coming, y'all. I understand it's frustrating because I want my stuff right now, but it's coming. We didn't lose it all overnight. We're not going to gain it all back overnight.
Well, you've been a voice of, I guess, calm through this, right? Because the first question people ask is, well, let me phrase it this way. I can only imagine, and I haven't been one of them. I'm giving them some breathing room, but I can only imagine how many phone calls gun shops, not just in my state, in my local neighborhood, are getting across the country. It's in the millions, no question about it. And you've been this voice of, hey, hold on, take a breather here. Let's wait until we get this guidance. And I think the Second Amendment Foundation's questions through Cooper and Kirk to the DOJ on this are going to be a very, very important. And I think if I read you correctly, if I'm reading the room right, those are the questions that we're going to see answered over the course of the next few days. Is that right?
I sure hope so. There are several groups. I've spoken with leadership of all of them. They're all trying to get guidance. They're all asking, hey, this is your job. Do it. We need this. There are businesses who don't know what to do going forward with this unconstitutional law. You know, I do know of one FFL. I won't put their name out there, obviously, so they don't get negative attention. But they were transferring these mufflers, these aluminum pieces with a 4473, and they were contacted by their IOI, and they were told in no uncertain terms, stop it. It's business as usual until we say otherwise. So,
okay, explain to listeners who don't know what IOI is.
It's the industry person who inspects the FFLs. That's the easiest way to put it. They're not an ATF agent, but they are the inspector who comes and checks your books, matches it against your inventory, checks your paperwork to see if there's any errors. You know, if it was Biden that was the president, if you forgot to dot an I or cross a T, maybe you lose your license. But yeah, that's them.
All right. So was that a legal threat?
No, I actually think it was more of a heads up, because look, these companies, they want to do what's right, but they also, nobody wants to put their livelihood, their business in a spot that might give them a felony and put them away and take it away. They can't feed their kids. So I've said numerous times in the last week, like, show your FFL some grace. You would not put yourself in felonious risk for anybody else. So don't expect somebody to give up their liberty because you have no patience. That's just the nicest way I can say it. We're going to win this, guys. You know, just take a breath. We'll get it. Think about it this way. Our founders dumped tea in the ocean.
Yeah.
We just dumped the NFA in the ocean.
Yes.
And we don't have any lifeboats because nobody thought it would happen.
Right.
So it's going to take a couple days so that everybody can figure out, how do we process these where you used to have a Form 4? Do you need a Form 1 anymore? Do you have to engrave stuff anymore? So there's a lot of questions that people need guidance on so they don't get themselves jumped up. And put it this way, if you want your FFL to just not wait for guidance and just do it, well, if ATF happens to come at them because they screwed up something paperwork-wise, well, guess what? It's coming back on you anyway. So let's just pump the brakes here.
All right. But I'm going to take you back to something you just said. Let's give it a couple days. Guys, if we can't hang a couple days after 92 years, okay, I know we're all itching. I have my own very personal reasons that I want to see this happen very, very quickly for a number of different reasons. I've mentioned before, I don't own any Class 3 items. That's for a particular set of reasons. I want that to go bye-bye. We are this close, ladies and gentlemen. We are this close. But I'm willing to wait a couple days to see that happen because I've waited for so long anyway. And, you know, even if a couple days stretches into a couple weeks, I'm going to be personally comfortable with that because I know the end result, which is exactly what you just said. This thing is history. The kill shots getting ready to be fired.
Yeah, man. The best part is the people who live in South Carolina with Palmetto State Armory and those who live near Silencer Shop, they're already causing this animal to bleed profusely.
Yeah.
There's been so many 40-33 transfers on suppressors. The cat's out of the bag. The genie's out of the bottle. It's not going back.
Yeah, and the feds aren't going to be able to stop it either, ladies and gentlemen. I use that analogy all the time. The Weber grill lid has been lifted off. The smoke has escaped throughout the neighborhood. You can see it wafting down your street. Your neighbors can smell it. They know what you're cooking. When we come back, 3 more segments with Jared Yanis from Guns and Gadgets. Make sure to subscribe over there on YouTube. Let's go back to Jared Yanis, Guns and Gadgets. Make sure to subscribe at Guns and Gadgets, please. Let's help Jared let's help him pop YouTube over 1 million subscribers. Jared, welcome back, brother.
Always good to be here, my friend.
Oh, man, always fun to have you. I've got a lot of comments in the chat. We'll get to those in the second half of this hour with you. And if we were able to do it, I'd like to do it during the break, but I want listeners around the country to hear your response to some of these as well. You know, we're talking about, you know, bringing down the attitude a little bit here. You understand the excitement from someone that lives in Jersey or someone that lives in New York. And let's go to California. A question that came up when I was talking with Rob in the previous hour was, I feel really good. It was California Curmudgeon is the one that put that in the chat. I'm so happy for all of you. I've been, you know, applying for jobs for the last couple of days outside of California. I can understand that for a lot of different reasons. But solely on this reason, because freedom's coming to California too, particularly after 2027. Let's combine both of these. Let's go behind the blue wall together, Jared, for a minute. if you live in New York, Illinois, the usual suspects, you know the blue states, you know who they are. If you live in them, you certainly know who they are. But pick the one you want, doesn't matter. Let's combine a 2027 win, which we know we're going to get, all things being equal, with this. Wow. Now, are we going to be having this conversation that this is the biggest thing in 10 months from now? We very well could be.
Yeah, it's a distinct possibility. I mean, you have the assault weapon bans, their words, not mine. They're going to be destroyed nationwide. And, you got the Glock ban that's going to be destroyed in
we're
the
going
blue
there
states
with
that
you.
are popping them up.
We're going there with you in a minute.
It's there are a lot of wins, and I will be the first to say I'll eat a little crow here. When we had this administration take over, and they had the Stones to say that they were the most pro 2A administration, I took them to task.
Yes, you did.
Because of their history, because of their text and their tradition. And I will say that since we've had a change in the AG's office, Harmeet Dillon has done some fantastic things. Barry Arrington has done, he's the chief of the 2A section. Donald Trump is personally responsible for getting this one over the finish line with the NFA. But that only happened because you, the American people, lit up the phone lines and got involved. So they are listening. And I think we ride this horse that will name victory right through the finish line.
Do they need push still? Let's go to Todd Blanche. I've spoken to Todd on more than one occasion. You've spoken to all of them as well. You speak with ATF, Cicada. We'll be both speaking with Cicada together in 5 weeks from now?
Yeah.
In Dallas together. Okay. And we'll also be meeting with Harmeet Dillon. Some big, powerful punches coming up at the GRPC, guys. And, Rob Leiter will be there as well. I mean, it's going to be a huge informative meeting. But what happens if we back off? Does DOJ keep needing this push? They still need to hear from us, don't they? Isn't that isn't that just one way we keep our foot on the gas?
Yeah, absolutely. When you're winning, you accelerate harder. We don't want to give up because we have a lot of ground to make up. We, the people, have given up a lot of room in our rights, and it's time to take it back. And the only way you do that is you let your employees know it's time to do their job.
Yeah, and they are our employees. Let's talk about the anti-gunners right now. I got to be honest with you. I'm having a lot of fun watching them go nuts. No two groups more so. Every town's been somewhat quiet, but Giffords and the Bradys have been very vocal about their disappointment in the DOJ because of these dangerous items. Can you tell me, and for the benefit of listeners, Jared, I'm not asking a rhetorical question. I'm not trying to make it funny. It's going to sound that way to us and to many of our listeners. But what is it that makes a suppressor and an SBR so dangerous that the Bradys and the Giffords and the Everytowns are just apoplectic over this? What makes it so dangerous?
Brother, if I could spend a day in their shoes, I'd probably run away into the woods. It's, if anything, their efforts, and I hope they're listening, their efforts over the last 10 years have helped us get here by demonizing everything and bringing the attention to it, made us, our side, fight harder and bring more lawsuits and rile the troops more. And thank you. Thank you for trying to be so anti-American that you woke up the American people.
Yeah, I was talking with Rob in the previous segment, and he was right about this, and I have to hand it to him here. A lot of this down the road is going to fall on in common use, the in common use verbiage. And the numbers that I gave him, I'll throw out to you as well. 6.4 million, according to ATF, just suppressors. We're not talking SBRs or SBSs right now, and there are millions of those as well. But just May alone, 121,000, I believe it was, Form 4s. Yeah. And that was after completing 121,000 other Form 4. We're talking just May. This is clearly in common use. And the other side just doesn't get it. I'm still trying to wrap my head around, though, what makes a suppressor so dangerous? Paul Markle on Friday's Daily Defense had a wonderful analogy. He goes, we have been regulating hearing protection for 92 years. Make that make sense. You can't.
Yeah. Well, if you go back and you look at 1934 and the hearings around the NFA, it was about the old gangsters. It was the Al Capones and how could they get them off the streets. when they couldn't do it unless they created this tax where they knew the gangsters weren't going to pay it. So they went after the mob with this tax and were able to take them off the street. They had to demonize something. So they demonized like the Tommy gun or the sub guns, but it was never about the gun. It was always about the criminal, except they don't put criminals behind bars. They take it out on us now, the good people who aren't committing crimes. But those times are changing, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, that's that 1 inch. You give them that inch, and look at how many miles they've used that for since 1934. And remind listeners again, what was the charge that finally put Al Capone behind bars? It was taxes. Okay, that's what locked up that guy, was taxes. Jared, we've got a lot to cover with you here in the next couple segments. One of your latest videos, just out from, I believe, about 6 or 7 hours ago, was the Glock ban backfiring in New York, and New York being dragged back into federal court. I want to go there with you. I think that's very important because the language that the anti-gunners have been using relative to the Glock is going to come back to haunt them in 2027, particularly in June, I think, based on the way they have phrased what a Glock is. It's just a handgun, ladies and gentlemen. Your local cops likely are carrying some version of a Glock. I can tell you right now that the Georgia State Patrol are carrying 2 Glocks, one in an ankle holster and another one in their other holster. Okay.
20.
I mean, come on. They're Glocks. Most people have some version of a Glock sitting in a safe at home, regardless of what other guns you have, myself included. But when we come back with Jared, we're going to talk a little bit about that, and he's going to explain to us what's going on in New York. It's a great video. If you haven't seen it, I want to point you to it. Again, you can see everything he does at Guns and Gadgets. We'll be back with Jared. I always ask Greg when the Blackout Coffee rejoin comes in, and those of you who are listening in the first hour, I gave it away. Since I gave it away to Greg anyway. Greg, how many cups of Blackout Coffee did I have to start my day today? Not a guess. How many did I have?
That's going to be 2.
Do you remember? That's right. It was 2 of them. And that's the 2A roast, ladies and gentlemen. And we've been kind of fighting over the 1776 and the 2A roast here at the house lately as to which one's better. 4 of us in the house. I think right now it's a split. And I'm kind of leaning towards the 2A. I was all in the 1776 camp. And the reason I can say that, ladies and gentlemen, is because I get the coffee of the month, and you can do the same thing. In fact, that QR code right up there, right up yonder up there. Don't do it while you're driving, please. Don't be that person. Leave that to the liberal Democrats. Whichever one Jared's pointing at, I can't remember which way my camera's at, so I'll just say it's right up here. Okay. That QR code is Blackout Coffee, blackoutcoffee.com/AAR, and take advantage of that roast of the month. It's awesome. You will love it, just like we do at the house. Back to the Glock. I've been going through the chat here and looking at some of the comments and some of the questions, and there are some really, really good comments in here. Guys, I wish I could get to all of them, but let me find the one from Martin, because you guys are so active in there. It's moving on me fairly quickly. And let's see, Martin, if I can get to where did it go? I just had it in front of me and it's already moving up and down the pike here. I may have to wait. Oh, here it is, Jared. Good one for you. Where is this administration getting their 2A advocacy advice from? That's a great question.
Yeah, there's a couple avenues. I'm not naming them so that it doesn't end that reach for them. But there's a couple that you have probably, if you were thinking about it, yeah, that's probably them.
Okay, so Martin, put your thinking cap on, and those of you that are paying attention, I think you can figure it out when you go to bed at night. It's not going to be that hard. Let's go to the Glock ban. This deal in New York, and I got to get to you on a couple other issues as well. But let's go to the Glock ban first. Is this going to be a dead issue finally? What New York being dragged back into federal court? Can you explain for us?
Yeah, I mean, and for those who aren't aware, there are a couple states that have implemented Glock bans. Basically, they're calling them convertible pistols or easily convertible machine pistols. Based off of the cruciform trigger bar. Anybody who looks at a Glock knows what that is. And the infamous Glock switch, which was not made or marketed by Glock, can obviously utilize that to make the gun shoot faster. Now, that device is already illegal. The act of putting that on a firearm is illegal. But now your New Yorks and your Californias are trying to make the base Glock illegal because bad people might do bad things. So therefore, you good people cannot have. So SAF, FPC, NRA brought this case this past week here, and it's phenomenal. They're using all of the decisions we've talked about here in the last couple of weeks and saying, look, common use alone says you can't do this. Heller said handguns are the quintessential form of self-defense. And they went through the numbers. Just in 1 year, Glock made 580,000 pistols here stateside. And that doesn't include the ones that are imported in. Most law enforcement has Glocks. A majority of the market share in the U.S. as far as citizens have owned Glocks, and it's always in the top 5 pistols in the country. And the best part is here in New York State Police, they've been issued Glocks since 1990. So for decades,
they're carrying machine
they've
pistols.
had the same Glock, right? Isn't that crazy?
But
good.
Okay. The stupidity here is hard to wrap your head around. The stupidity, guys. Sometimes it's hard to form an opinion around something so utterly stupid. I'm going to make up my own word here. They just rely on Walmartism type stuff to come up with this garbage. I mean, they literally do. They make it up out of thin air. But I bet you that it backfires on them with the verbiage that they've been using, because the states are now calling these pistols assault pistols. Virginia famously did it. Well, guess what's coming to an end in June of 2027 is assault weapons bans, okay? Is that going to include your Glock? It likely will, because I have this gut feeling, and I know this for a fact, if Thomas writes the decision, the hammer's coming down, okay? Yeah. I feel the same way if Kavanaugh writes it. I either way, or Alito, I think the hammer is going to come down. Here's another one that Jared, and this has been a question I've gotten a ton over the last couple of weeks, or just the last week. Can I replace my brace now? Can I do that? Because, Jared, I've got some AR pistols, and my braces found their way home not long ago. They just, all of a sudden, they just reappeared at my house. And when they did, brace goes on the gun, then it can't go on the gun, then it goes on the gun, then it can't go on the gun. But specifically address what that question actually means. Replace it with what? What are you saying? What's the question? What are people really asking when they say, can I replace my brace now?
Yeah, people are saying, can I manufacture my homemade SBR? We all know that. I'm there with y'all. What I will tell you is the same thing I said in my video. Probably. Yeah. Because this injunction specifically destroyed that section of law which said that if you're covered by this, if you're one of the named plaintiffs, members, or a customer of these groups, it doesn't apply to you. So it doesn't even exist anymore. So probably, now I'm not an attorney, so I don't want you to hold up this radio broadcast when you're pulled over the side of the road. However, pump the brakes, because that guidance is coming. Mm-hmm. And like Mark said, we've waited 92 years. A couple of days isn't going to kill us. But if you go into like a Palmetto State Armory, that's probably going to be the first place you get an SBR over the counter once the ATF gets in their right mind. If you own a Palmetto State, I would just use them for an example, a Palmetto State Armory gun that you got from them, gun, not gum, you probably could do that. You could probably print your own suppressor right now, but I say probably because we don't have definitives yet. And that's why your FFLs are just pumping the brakes.
And for those of you, some of the nuance, SBR, for those of you who might not know, we have a lot of new listeners around the country on a number of radio stations. SBR is short-barreled rifle, 16 inches or below, because 15 inches, I guess, according to the Giffords and the Bradys, is, well, we all know. We've seen the videos. It blows up cars and it causes nuclear explosions and power plants blow up because the barrel's 15 inches. It's all nonsense, ladies and gentlemen, and it's all coming to an end. But the fact of the matter is that's what we're referring to. And to get just even a little bit more specific for those of you who might be scratching your heads, we're talking about if you take your pistol brace off and put your stock on that weapon. A month ago, that was a violation of federal law that could put you in prison for what correct me if I'm wrong, 15 to 20 years on a federal felony.
Per each violation, 10 years and 100,000 plus of fines. So yeah, and they don't just give you one violation.
No, and there are people that are in prison for that very reason, ladies and gentlemen. We talked about a case, Jared, just about 6 months ago, a young kid in Florida who was ratted out by somebody who said he was selling an SBR. All he had was a stock on the actual pistol itself. So this is why you gotta, kind of just chill out a little bit. You're safer in other places right now than before. And are they really going to pursue it? Probably not. But again, it's safe to say. But here's what I can tell you, and I know Jared will back me up on this. It's coming. Chill out. Go ahead and pick up your stock. You already got your AR pistol. You know what you're going to be able to do. Just wait until we get that guidance. And we do expect that guidance to come down. I've heard from someone as well that likely by Wednesday or Thursday, we're going to know a whole hell of a lot more. And it could be a lot earlier than that, Jared. You might even know more than that. But it's coming, I think, this week, right?
That is the plan. That's what I've been
Okay.
told. Unless something earth-shattering happens, we should probably anticipate it.
Could something earth-shattering happen? Ooh.
I mean,
Loaded
the way we've
question.
been going, you never know.
Yeah, it's been so nuts out there, ladies and gentlemen. We really don't know the answer to some of these questions anymore, which is why we want to tell you because there is no set answer. I'm going to take you in a direction. We talked with Pincus quickly. I'm going to use Georgia as an example. You're in Tennessee. We were talking about that. He's in North Carolina. There's nuance in these laws. There's a slight difference because of a word. In Georgia law, registration through NFA is required.
30.
We've got 30 seconds. So I'll set you up with that one, Jared, when we come back. Let's talk about some of that nuance in some of the state law, because I think you'll agree that the mud created is not being created by what happened to NFA, but what has happened behind the scenes in the states and how it's now going to be interpreted in those states as a result of some of those laws. When we come back, one more segment with Jared Yanis, Guns and Gadgets. This is a great time to go over and subscribe right now. We'll be right back. Yeah, that's a gimme, ladies and gentlemen. You've got to be a member of the National Rifle Association, America's oldest civil rights organization, and they have just been doing some incredible work in conjunction with some of the other organizations around the country that are making all of these things that we're talking about possible. It has been absolutely the most historic time for the Second Amendment. And I'm going to tell you now, I'm pretty sure Jared will agree with me, not just in our lifetimes, but in the nation's lifetime. This has been incredibly significant, and it's only going to get better. And as long as you're a member of some of these organizations and we keep the pressure up, there is power and strength in these numbers from the state organizations all the way through. Look at what's happening in Virginia, folks. I mean, Spanberger don't know which side is up. She's being sued 4 ways to Sunday. We're coming at her from 5 different areas, and she's losing. And we're losing it. She's losing at the federal level as well, which is going to help knock out some of these state bans also. Okay? This is why this is so important. So please join these organizations. Also, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and hit MyPillow. Fall's coming, believe it or not. And they got some great stuff going on over there, some great discounts. MyPillow.com, excuse me, MyPillow.com, MyPillow.com/AAR. Take advantage of that. Don't forget, Patriot Mobile, Bud's Gun Shop, and also Patriots Relief. I use that stuff on my shoulders and everything else. That stuff works, ladies and gentlemen. If it works for me, it'll likely work for you. Give it a shot. Get a discount over there at patriotsrelief.com/AAR. Don't forget your blackout coffee. And if you want to buy some AAR swag, it's jeoutfitters.com. Jared Yanis, Guns and Gadgets. Welcome back in, brother. It's always fun to have you here. We've got you for one more segment, man. I mean, there's so many directions to go. I apologize for not really. I've got 61 pages of notes here. If I scroll through and close my eyes and hit a bullet point, something that we haven't talked about is going to come up. So I'm going to take it over to you. You know, we were talking about the pistol braces, et cetera, and you know, putting the stocks on. What else do people need to know about this? Because there's a lot of nuance. Let's get into that nuance we're talking about with the states. What happens?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing people should be comfortable with, first off, is this wasn't the Supreme Court making this decision, so they couldn't. The district court judge couldn't make a swath blanket coverage for everybody, thanks to a Supreme Court case, Casa versus Trump. So they have to make it limited to the named plaintiffs. So that's why when I say relief is coming, pump your brakes, that's one of the reasons why. Now, with the NFA issue with these states, there are 27, like I like to call them free states, where you don't have to worry about it, you're good to go. There's no ties in the state law to anything in the NFA. There are 8 states that ban cans, and for SBRs and SBSs, you have to worry about the other 15 states where there are ties in the state law that reference back to the NFA. For instance, to be in compliance in this state, you have to have been approved by the National Firearms Act and all that stuff. Well, that's gone in certain parts of it. So now where do those residents live, that gray area? And you know those anti-gun AGs are going to say, well, sorry, you're not approved federally. But there's already work on that. So without putting our cards out on the table, there are things being worked on. There are people who've already thought through that. So there are a lot of irons in the fire. it's being addressed. That's the best way I can say that.
Let me ask you this, and George is kind of in the middle here with that reference to the NFA. Now, suppressors are legal here in the state. You've been able to buy a suppressor here as long as you registered via the NFA through one of the kiosks, et cetera, which, guys, there was a process there. You get the trust, or you can buy it individually. You know, that's all gone at this point right now. But the verbiage in there is what puts it in that purgatory. I'm going to tell you right now that when there is no more and it's gone, the verbiage goes away. And being in a free state like Georgia, I don't think it's going to be an issue. But in other states, like you just mentioned, Jared, they're going to try to hold on to that. They're going to try to fight that tooth and nail and just put up another wall, behind that blue wall. Do you believe in a state like Georgia that it's going to require legislation from the state to clear that up, or what's happening at the federal level take care of that?
Ideally, it's probably going to take some act from the legislature because they're the ones who make the laws. There's a law in the book now. They could do something, rip it through the next session and say, we rescind that portion of this law. It's that easy. But I know that there are efforts being made to try to force that to happen in other ways. But I prefer legislative wins. Like, I would love if the Supreme Court said, these states, you can't ban it anyway for whatever reason, XYZ, this thing called the Constitution, this other thing called the Bill of Rights. But it's going to be interesting to see, because the anti-gunners are the best paid, spoiled brat babies in the nation. They're well funded.
Well said.
They will fight everything tooth and nail, and they're going to make us push them out. Basically,
all they can do is change public opinion with the money they spend, or try to. That's where they mischaracterize things intentionally to muddy those waters, to try to change people's minds, to put pressure on legislators. And because the Constitution and the Bill of Rights clearly is not on their side, it's on our side. We're righteous in this argument, and we already know that, and we're seeing that come to fruition right now. Let me say this. We've got an election coming up here in the state of Georgia, obviously in November across the country. Here, guys, we have super majorities in the state of Georgia. But this is why we don't want and can't have a Keisha Lance Bottoms sitting in the governor's mansion who is going to sign or not sign the legislation that Jared is referring to right now. This is where elections have consequences, folks. Arizona, so close, so close, so close. Okay, one or two legislators away in Arizona with a Democrat governor, you've already got problems out there. Okay, we don't want to see the Virginianization, if you will, make up our own words, of your state. Fair to say, right, Jared?
Oh, absolutely. And another factor people need to realize is there are in the area of 8 to 10 million self-proclaimed gun owners and hunters that aren't registered to vote. So if you look at your local elections and say, oh, the guy I wanted lost by 500,000 votes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, if everybody got off their keister and voted accordingly, we would never lose an election, especially when it comes down to somebody who's 2A friendly. So that's something people need to really take to heart now.
See Virginia.
Absolutely. There's a lot of states right now that are blue where people used to say it can't happen here, and it does.
It absolutely does. Again, see Virginia. All right. Boy, not only did it happen, it happened on steroids, and it literally happened overnight. Jared, what do you got coming up? Can you tease some more videos before we close out with you? What's next at Guns and Gadgets?
Well, I hope the next one I have is a huge update for the National Firearms Act regulations when it comes to guidance. That's probably going to be the one I'm anticipating making the most, because, again, I've waited my entire life to tell America, go get them. And it's going to be fun. But I got some travel coming. I'm going to be out at GRPC for Second Amendment Foundation with you, and going to be able to talk to some leaders out there. Got a couple other trips, and one of them is I'm flying back to New England for opening day, the New England Patriots, and I can't wait to do that. I love football.
And I can promise you this, ladies and gentlemen, Jared will have video camera while traveling, and if something breaks, he's gonna get in on it. I can promise you that. He's no different than AWR. Have backpack, will carry. Have camera, will carry. No question about it. Jared Yanis, Guns and Gadgets, YouTube, brother. We love you. Fan favorite for a reason. Thank you for being here and taking time on your Sunday to join Armed American Radio and all of our new listeners around the country. And Jared, you and I are going to be making an announcement at some point. There's a lot going on with Armed American Radio. You're privy to. A lot of people are going to be shocked when they hear the news, but that's all coming, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to have a lot to talk about. Jared Yanis, Guns and Gadgets. Get over there and subscribe. Help the man get to 1 million, please, because guess what? The White House and DOJ is listening and watching, and it matters. Jared, thank you for everything you do, brother. We'll see you. We'll talk to you this week, and I'll definitely see you in Dallas. Thanks, Jared. That's Jared Yanis from Guns and Gadgets, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, it's a classic Armed American Radio Roundtable with the crew, Brad Primo, Ryan Petty, and Justin Moon. And welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. Hour 3, Armed American Radio's Monster Cast begins right now. We're on the downward slide, Greg, of the 3-hour broadcast. Can you believe it? Man, talk about having to buckle in, bro.
Yeah, I've been leaning on the Zoom switch over here, so
well, slow it, back it down a little bit. Go ahead there, big trucker. Back it down there, big trucker. Back it down. Break her one down. Break her one down. Back her down. Back her down. Back her down. Back her down. Big rig. We got a lot to talk about and very little time to do it. Lots of new radio stations around the country. We love every one of our affiliates. Hawaii, you guys have been getting pounded out there, man. We're thinking about you. The hurricane's been causing some flooding out there, no question. That you are on Armed American Radio, and we are filling your prescription for freedom. Welcome to the broadcast, not just this one, but also in Honolulu, the Daily Show as well. 6 days a week. 6 days a week. Greg, I got a joke for you. You want to start the hour with a joke?
Yeah, sure. Let's go for it.
Yeah, a guy goes in to get a job at a financial company, and the boss says to him, he says, "Oh, what's up with this 4-year gap in your resume?" He goes, "Oh, that's when I was at Yale." And he goes, "Oh, good. Well, you're hired. We like that." He goes, "Thanks very much. I needed the job." Job.
Okay,
Yale,
okay.
He was in jail. Anyway, I told that at dinner, and it went over better than it did now. But I hope you're laughing out there, ladies and gentlemen. I can't see you. It's radio land, but I hope
Somebody's
you enjoyed
laughing.
it. Somebody's laughing
Just
at that.
not
You
us.
get it? Yeah, I was at Yale. Oh, you're hired. Oh, thanks. I needed the job. There you go. You got it figured out. Greg, we're in the Car Firearms Group studios with you. CZ Mike is lit up. We're on all of our platforms except for Rumble, and that's because of Rumble. I'll let you do that. Tell people where they can get in on the chat. We'll bring Ryan Petty up on the screen, and we'll talk to, of course, Justin Moon, CEO of Car Arms, and Brad Primo as well. The classic Roundtable crew is locked and loaded. Greg, take it away.
Yeah, sure. Places to watch the show are going to be YouTube and Facebook. Just do a search for Armed American Radio with Mark Walters. Over on X, you can find us at AAR Mark. You can always head over to armedamericanradio.org or .com, hit that menu icon, then select your watch live or listen live option. And if you want to join our live chat, just download Telegram, create your profile, and search for Armed American Radio Conversations.
Yeah, and that'll do it. And we've got some really exciting things coming down the pike at Armed American Radio, ladies and gentlemen. A press release will be going out in the very near future. And when it does, you will be probably the first or second to know about it once I get the green light. And it is big news. One of the biggest things we've ever done at Armed American Radio. So we're thrilled about that. All right, who called in first? Let's go there first.
That's going to be Brad.
Brad Primo, CEO, Lead Slingers, former law enforcement and combat vet, and flock expert. Brad Primo, how you doing? Welcome in, brother.
I'm doing well, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. It's great to have you here. That flock situation just keeps rearing its ugly head, man. We might have to go back there again today. Some developments that have popped up over that relative to gun stuff, and I saw a report that maybe we'll jump in on. Justin Moon, CEO of Car Arms. We're in the Car Firearms Group studio. Justin, how you doing, brother?
Doing good, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Oh, always a pleasure, man. We get to see you in October because the What of What Festival is coming.
Rod of Iron Freedom Festival in October. Columbus Day weekend.
Columbus Day weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure to check out Rod of Iron. Rod of Iron. Just Google that up at Car Arms. If you've never been, it's so cool just to go to see the Tommy gun factory in the warehouse. Okay, it's one of the coolest gun shops you will ever see. I can promise you. And there's literally walls of Tommy guns. And I can't wait, Justin, to get my Tommy gun SBR. That day is coming. We'll talk about that. And Ryan Petty, welcome in. I got you up on camera. How you doing, my friend? Nice backdrop over there, man. Nice backdrop. You got an assault pistol and a machine pistol behind you. Are you sure you want to do that? It scares the Democrats.
Look, they're both fully semi-automatic too, so they're raring to go.
That's Walmart.
Great to be here, Mark.
It's great to have you guys here. Brad, I'm going to start with you. We're going to go around the table. The NFL, I'm going to just quote, we spin the topic of conversation today, and I'll quote Jared Yanis at the outset of the first segment in last hour. This is the most historic 2A news, 92 years of NFA gun control history. Did you ever think you would see this? Did you ever think we would be talking about this on the roundtable? Ever?
No, Like it's
Right.
been, it's been hard to even wrap my mind around all the ramifications of this. But no, I never, somehow I didn't think we'd ever get here. But here we are to the point where, there's some trepidation out there. I know, especially in other federal court districts and things like that. I know there's some people who are still kind of waiting to see how it shakes out. But just looking how things are going, it really looks like we are not too far off from suppressors being practically a cash and carry item after a 4473, which is still unconstitutional. But we'll take every win we can get and incremental victories. But holy cow, that's going to be awesome. I just hope that the suppressor manufacturers will step up and make even so many suppressors that now we can buy them for $100 instead of $500. I'd love the price to come down a little bit, but this is really exciting.
I think the market will do that. And let's talk a little bit about the market. Justin Moon, CEO of Car Arms. Did you ever think we would get here and have this conversation on this program? And I say this, Justin, because everybody, we talked about how things are coming slow. We've got the most pro-gun administration. Now it seems like things are coming at us rapid fire, and Brad is right. I'm the same way. Trying to wrap my head around this and even formulate opinions on this has been very difficult to do with the speed with which it has approached us. Justin, as a manufacturer, as a CEO of Car Arms, Magnum Research, Thompson, how do you wrap your head around this?
Well, certainly, Mark, it's like a dream come true. I mean, I've been wanting to have suppressors and short barrel rifles without having to go through the NFA. And you got to give credit to the president for bringing those new Supreme Court justices and changing the mood of this country so that a decision like this could stand. And also kudos to Todd Blanche at the DOJ for not appealing this case. I hope he continues not to appeal it. I mean, I understand they still have 60 days before the case is fully stands. But I'm looking forward to buying a lot of suppressors.
Let me ask you this: Will you, as a manufacturer, begin that process? Do you have any plan? And I know this, you likely had strategic planning. We really haven't been able to do because this did happen so quickly. But is that an area that you might want to jump in on some of your amazing guns?
Well, we're certainly in the short barrel market, short barrel rifle market, and we will be getting heavier into the suppressor market. That's for sure.
Okay, that's a great sign, and I have the advantage of seeing you shaking your head, Ryan, on camera as an FFL. This has been a remarkable 2 months. Out of these 2 months, this has been an absolutely remarkable week. Let me quote AWR's headline: NFA registration begins slide into oblivion under Trump, DOJ, and ATF. Did you ever think you would read that headline?
No, I can't. We've had win after win after win to the point where we had to say, we're not tired of winning, right?
Right.
But this was phenomenal. This was unbelievable. I can't believe where we're at right now. I never in my wildest dreams imagined that we'd be at the point where the NFA, it's on the verge of being repealed. I mean, it is the most unnecessary set of restrictions that I can think of, and it's on the ropes. And we've got to do the right thing. We've got to keep pressing, keep pushing forward. Hopefully, the DOJ won't go for an appeal on this thing, and we'll just keep moving forward. I'm excited. I know my customers are excited too. Phone's been ringing off the hook.
Oh, that was going to be my next question. As an FFL, I guarantee you're getting pounded, and I have chosen not to bother my local gun shops for that very reason. I'll wait, and I'm not. While I'm excited, I'm not in a rush at this moment in time. When I was talking with Jared Yanis in the previous hour, it was and Jared's been a real great voice out there for just, hey guys, just kind of slow down. Let's wait until we get some guidance. And I do want to point this out, Brad. I'll open this up with you and we'll come back to you in the next segment as well on this and start this discussion at the round table, because that's what we do, ladies and gentlemen. We go around the table at the round table and we do a pretty good job of it. And that is, Brad, that as excited as everybody is right now to do this, have you rushed out yet? What's your time frame here, I guess, is the question. It's hard to even articulate some questions on this because it's been so rapid fire. But what's your time frame here? How excited are you, I guess, is what I'm asking.
30.
I'm pretty pumped, and my time frame is going to be completely dependent on what I see prices doing. I mean, at this time, I don't really want to go out and spend $100 or $1,000 on a suppressor.
Yeah, but okay,
I think
stop right there. Right. Stop right there. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I want you to finish that. When we come back, lots more to talk about as we go around the table here in a classic Armed American Radio Roundtable. In very, very historic times, ladies and gentlemen, we'll show the Car Firearms Group studios lit up for you. We're on hundreds of radio stations around the nation. Greg, I'm so excited, Greg, to be able to talk about a press release that's going out in the next few days. You know that?
Yeah.
I am chomping at the bit, but I can't. I just can't. And I know Ryan knows what I'm talking about. You can shake your head. Yes, Ryan, it's good to go. He's shaking his head. Yes, he knows. Such a beautiful thing getting ready to happen, ladies and gentlemen. And when the press release goes out, I'm going to read it to you on air, and you're going to be absolutely blown away. We're so excited here. Let's just say we're forming a new partnership that is going to be absolutely incredible for everybody all the way around. And it's really exciting stuff. That's all I can say, but I just wanted to get that out right now. Welcome back to the Car Firearms Group studios with me. You just heard that NRA rejoin coming back. NationalRifleAssociation.org/AAR. Please, please, please join the NRA. We're talking about this massive historic win, which just 2 weeks ago, we didn't know was coming because the win then was massive and historic. And the week before that was massive and historic. What's coming in June of 2027 is going to be massiver and historicer. And combined with this, is going to be massiver and historicer. We make up our own words. We Walmartism here. Okay. It is absolutely mind-boggling what's going on. And we couldn't do it without groups like the NRA and like you. We need you as a member. NRA.org/AAR. Join all of these local groups. And if you want this injunction to apply to you, it's real simple. The SAF and CCR-KBA are giving you a $25 deal. This was one of the questions we've gotten a lot of. Is SAF a plaintiff in the case? Is my membership at SAF, does that give me the protection of the injunction? No, it does not. But it does if you're a member of the organization that Ryan Petty and I are members of the board of directors of, and that's the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms. So what they're doing is they're throwing together a package for you. You can join both organizations right now by visiting ccrkba.org or saf.org and join both for $25. $25. And the injunction covers you. Brad Primo, welcome back to the Car Firearms Group studios. We're talking about this massive big win, and you were talking about prices coming down, things of that nature. But economically, I believe the market, that's the way the market works. If you're not a commie, if you're not voting for the commies and Democrats, socialist world nonsense, you understand how the free market works. I'm with you on that. You mentioned the cans. Hopefully they come down. They will. The price will come down. The market will bring that down. They will be flying off of the shelves. And I take it that I heard from you that you're willing to be patient here, right?
Well, sure. And, with the one of the effects, I think one of the intended effects of the NFA was to kill demand for things like suppressors and short-barreled rifles and things of that nature. And so, the idea that, look, I know a lot of people that, I have some suppressors and, they get to shoot a rifle with a suppressor on it or suppress 22. That's about as much fun as you get with shoes on. And they love it. And then they ask you about the process to get one. And they're like, oh, well, never mind. So there's a lot of people out there that I know, even gun people that have held off on getting a suppressor just because they don't want to deal with the NFA. They don't want to deal with
myself included.
The $200. Yeah, an extra $200 for no reason. The background check that doesn't do anything that a 4473 background check doesn't do. Having to fool with, depending on where you live, getting your fingerprints and getting your sheriff to sign off on it, like all these things. Like if you imagine if you had to go through that process to vote.
Oh, of course.
Imagine, right? I mean, just imagine the wailing and gnashing of teeth we hear from Democrats if you had to go through that process to vote. Whereas, doing this for something as simple as a sound suppressor, they're totally okay with. But when you remove all that, I think the demand's going to go way up. I think there's going to be some people, some companies that are well positioned to increase production. I think Palmetto State Armory is probably one of them. I think they've done a fantastic job.
They have
in building their business. And I'm not trying to pump somebody up, but like if just paying attention to them, they really support gun owners, and that's what we need out of more manufacturers is them getting behind gun owners and getting behind the cause instead of just kind of remaining aloof, getting in the trenches like some other one. Daniel Defense has done it, like one of your sponsors, fantastic company. Get in the trenches, and you'll reap the rewards of it. But I think we're going to see some suppressors for very reasonable prices in the next probably year or so.
I don't disagree. And of course, CAR's one of them. Let's go to Justin Moon, CEO of CAR Arms. Justin, I remember being at an NRA convention. I'm going back about 15 years. It might have even been longer. It's been a long time. We've known each other. And I remember Frank saying to me when I had to have one of those Tommy guns. And Frank famously said to me at that time, he says, you're in a state where SBRs are illegal. We can hook you up. I chose not to do that for a number of different reasons. I've never been real friendly to the ATF when the ATF was being run by people who didn't like us, okay? So I decided I'm not even going to play with that right now. But, Justin, I'm at a point right now, I can't wait for you to see what I pick up from you because that Tommy gun SBR is at the top of my list, brother. That is my number one pick right there. I have to have it. I'm warning you now, you're going to hear from me, brother. It's got to make you feel good, right?
Sounds good.
I mean, it's not just
make
me.
It happen, Mark.
There's millions of other people out there that are in this same boat, Justin, and it's got to feel good as a manufacturer. So I have to ask just a personal question. When you heard all this, what was your physical reaction? Did you take a deep breath and go, am I hearing this? Because I got phone calls from all over the country. Is this real? From some very big names.
Yeah.
They're shocked.
I mean, that was my first reaction. I couldn't believe it. So I'm still trying to digest it because I can't believe it happened.
It really is.
Unbelievable.
It is unbelievable, ladies and gentlemen. I can't press enough. Ryan, maybe you can help me do this. For those who don't live in gun world, why does this matter? Well, I don't own one. I don't have any interest of getting one, but there's a bigger picture here. What is it?
Yeah. Look, the big picture. Look, I'm with Justin, though. Can I just say, I was literally just in the bathroom about 20 minutes ago reading another article about this because I still can't believe it's real. I mean, I'm going to be I got bathroom reading material for the next week trying to believe this. So anyway, okay, we all get that visual out of our heads for just a moment. But look, why is this so important? Brad hit on something. Brad, you hit on two things that I want to call out. Number one, when we vote, there are schools of political thought that believe the vote is an act of violence. And the left has tried to make it as easy as possible for anyone, including those that aren't citizens, to vote. And they've done everything in their power to restrict law-abiding citizens from exercising their Second Amendment rights. That's why this is so historic, and that's why this is so important. We are restoring the Second Amendment to its proper place. And the Trump administration is also working hard to make sure that you must be a citizen and legally authorized to vote before you can vote. That is how, those two things are how we win.
Yeah.
Let me throw a little bit of a wet blanket on this party for just a second, because Brad, you said something else that I think is really important. And kudos to the companies that got behind this and really pushed this.
And he's good to it.
It's the most frustrating thing to me as a gun owner and a gun retailer.
30.
See this industry only react and respond when our backs are up against the wall. Guys, we are winning. It is time to put our money where our mouths have been. We have got to get behind programs
And
like
hit
this. We've
the
got
gas, brother. I've got to
we
stop
have got
you.
to hit the gas.
Got
Gotta
to
hit the gas,
stop you
Mark.
there because we're ready to take a break. When we come back, we're going to wrap that thought up. We've got 2 more segments to go, folks. Buckle in. We'll be right back with a roundtable. Check out budsgunshop.com, budsgunshop.com, budsgunshop.com. They have everything you want and need, and you need and want everything they have, particularly now, ladies and gentlemen. So as we keep our foot on the gas here and keep winning, pay attention to what's going on over there as prices begin to drop on some of these amazing accessories that we're all looking forward to picking up without the hassle that we've had to go through for 92 years for absolutely no reason whatsoever. Buds will be right at the forefront. There are exclusive online retailer. Make sure to join all of the state's organizations, including floridacarry.org, floridacarry.org, big push with them for the next few months, and AZCDL, azcdl.org. It's only $40 to join them. $25 to join VCDL, and it's free to join Connecticut Citizens Defense League. And it's their case up there, one of the two that will be heard by SCOTUS in the next term, that we are also going to win, and the gun grabbers are just going to melt. You think they're melting down now? We'll talk a little bit about their meltdowns coming up. Now might be a fun time to do that. We'll start with Brad Primo on that, but they're going to melt down like crazy, worse than they are already right now. And it's just going to be, just cry a little harder, guys. Just cry a little harder. Shed those liberal tears. Yeah, it hurts getting whacked upside the face with a rolled up copy of the Constitution, doesn't it, Brad Primo? Doesn't it? Well, I wouldn't know because I'm on the right side of the Constitution. But boy, hasn't it been fun to watch their silence? And now you have Giffords and Brady out there running their mouths about how the DOJ has just wiped out 100 years of common sense gun control. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Jared Yanis and Pincus and others on the program since this has all been breaking. Would you tell me what's common sense about regulating a sound device? Tell me, please. I would love to know the answer to that.
Man, I'm going to tell you, like, that, as much as I love common sense, I absolutely hate it when it's used in a political sense because it's like a dog whistle or a code word for, infringement on your rights is all that means. We're talking about the same technology. These are literally the exact same things as a muffler on your car. So, if you want to say, okay, well, no mufflers on cars, you want cars running around, being as loud as possible. I guess that's your right, but I think it's kind of a bad idea. It is absolutely insane, and it makes no sense. And frankly, the reason why the suppressors were put in the NFA in the first place all those years ago was wrong anyways. It was put on there because the Department of Interior wanted to prevent poaching on federal lands during the Great Depression when people were trying to feed their families. So you're already, getting into the woods and the weeds of, people taking the king's deer when they're trying to starve to death, and of course the government wanting to stop them from doing it. So, the fact that even there in the first place is completely asinine. So, this is a great day for us. It's a great day for freedom, and for the gun grabbers, just sit on it, eat it, sit with it, whatever. Like, they've lost, they're going to keep losing. They need to find something else to do. So
yeah, they're melting down like crazy. Justin, I'm going to get a little political here with you. This is right up your alley, and a great question, a good follow up from what Brad was talking about and Ryan just moments ago. How much more important does this make the midterms?
Well, the midterms are going to be bad for us because the president's not popular. I think, this win is going to, unfortunately, probably for the gun owner community, it will probably make them complacent. So
that is always a threat.
Help us very much.
That's always a threat.
So we need to do whatever we can to shore up the president's party's prospects to do as well as we can in this election because it's critical. But we are facing serious headwinds.
Yeah, we are definitely facing serious headwinds. I just noticed the other day when I saw gas at $4.14, 2 days after I paid $3.89, and my reaction to that was, what the hell just happened? I was just there 48 hours ago. That's on a lot of people's minds. What we don't want to have happen is the wrong thing happen in the midterms, Ryan Petty, that puts the brakes or the skids on these victories that we have right now. Now, we're not going to lose this victory, but we won't be able to progress any further with the advancements that we want to make if the wrong thing happens, right?
Oh, absolutely. The progress stops. If we do not prevail in the midterms, we will be forced to endure nonstop impeachment discussion from the left against President Trump for the remainder of his term. He will be an official lame duck. We'll get nothing done. We'll have to wait for the Supreme Court next year, which I think we all believe is going to be positive.
Right.
But this is the time to strike. The iron is hot. Let's keep moving forward. Let's support these groups. Let's buy from the companies that are supporting our Second Amendment rights. I mentioned it before. We got to support the folks that have supported AAR for all these years. this is the time to keep moving forward. And it can't just be the small percentage of gun owners that consistently give to these causes. It's got to be broad-based support. So everybody within the sound of our voices, please, tonight, purchase a firearm, take a friend to the range that doesn't shoot, join CCR KBA, Second Amendment Foundation, GOA, and the NRA.
All of them.
Join these groups and help, please. We need your help right now. I do not like the feeling of my back against the wall. It has been that way my entire life. We are now moving forward. This feels good. Let's move ahead.
Yeah, complacency always concerns me. I see comments in here. Martin's got a comment in here right now. Rapsnick's got a comment. We must. Texas Huntsman, we all need to pitch in. The number one thing we do not need is to make sure our two-way compatriots don't get complacent, as Justin just said. Justin, you just got shouted out in the chat as well. Brad, look, I have a feeling. And this is just a gut feeling, But the administration knows. The DOJ knows what's coming in November. I mean, as far as you being able to guess, they have access to internal polling that we don't have. But they know the midterms are coming. They know what's going to happen if the wrong thing happens in the midterms. That is what I'm basing my gut feel on right now, I think, psychologically, because I think we're going to see more wins between now and November as a result of what could happen in the midterms, based on a personal conversation I had with the Attorney General, Todd Blanche himself, who was talking to me about how they're going to shore this up. Even if the bad thing happens in November, that all of these wins are locked down. And I think that's part of the reason we're seeing the speed with which this is moving right now, Brad. I hope I'm right about that. I'm pretty sure you'll agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. And, the reality that we're facing is nothing new, right? I mean, a president often loses the midterms in this term. We can talk about why that's going to happen this time around or whatever. But we got to also talk about what's important to voters, what's important to the future of the country, and what is it that can be done through executive action that kind of is almost immune from congressmen doing anything about it. And the government not appealing this ruling on the suppressors and short barrel rifles and the short barrel shotguns, things of that nature, are things that Congress is largely going to be powerless to do anything about. They're not going to pass any laws. And even though it's going to get very sickening and just very tedious to watch the nonstop parade of virtue signaling and impeachment talk that's going to come out of Congress, if the Democrats win, the good thing is that they're not going to accomplish anything. They're gonna go into hysterics. They're gonna do all this drama. They're gonna make themselves look like idiots. And sober-minded voters are going to come right back out in 2028 and probably vote for J.D. Vance or whoever the Republicans are running for president. Like, let these idiots, let these psychos, sociopaths, and perverts come out there and really fly their freak flag next couple of years. And it's going to cost them dearly in 2028.
It's hard to disagree with that.
It's like a rope-a-dope. I mean, I honestly, given what the way the president has behaved, like he has said, the decisions he's made, like,
okay, let me stop.
Concerned about it.
Got to stop you because we're getting ready to take a break. When we come back, I'll go to you and we're going to toss it over to Justin. Armed American Radio's Monster Cast, guys. Final. So I am going to break my own cardinal rule here in this segment. I'm going to keep the air conditioner on in here because it's hotter than the FCC will let me say in FCC unfriendly terms in here. Welcome back into the Car Firearms Group studios. Ryan, who did I have to cut off? Brad, I had to cut you off. I want you to be able to finish that thought, and then we'll just keep moving on. Go for it. Mike is yours.
Well, lucky for you, I don't remember my thought when we left off. But
it happens.
Plain and simple. Yeah, it happens. But I'm telling you, I'm actually just almost giddy about this court ruling and what it means for us. Like, this is just unprecedented times for gun owners, and we got to keep pressing the advantage. And like we've been talking about, this is amazing. I mean, we're talking about the most unconstitutional piece of legislation we've had to suffer under pretty much going away. I mean, I said it in our group chat, like, we are so close to realizing my dream of being able to buy an SBR, the suppressor from a vending machine, the gas station.
I'm glad you said that.
We're this close, Mark. We're coming so close.
Yeah, Brad and I, guys, we have talked about this. Justin, you've heard me say this countless times over the years. And I saw it in the chat today. I forget who put it in there, but I've been monitoring the chat during the show and during the breaks. Lots and lots and lots of comments in there, and we appreciate it very much, guys. Please, thank you for that. Keep that up. But yeah, the day of that vending machine, Justin, is right around. That proverbial vending machine is right around the corner. We're close, dude. We're close, aren't we?
We're a lot closer than we've ever been. I'd like to see the day when we get machine guns legal too, and get rid of the whole NFA.
I'm telling you what, that day's coming. But I'll say this, one step at a time on that. I'm willing to take that one step at a time. Ryan, I guess you are too.
Step 1, NFA. Step 2, Gun Control Act.
I'm glad you brought that up, because the NFA, there's been a lot of confusion out there. Guys, I put a video out on YouTube. I want you to go watch. I just explained it in plain English. When all of this was breaking, I came out and sat down and I said, okay, people need to understand what's happening here, literally in plain English. And one of the biggest questions that we've seen was, is the NFA gone? We talked about this in the first segment, in the first hour and the second hour. And the answer to that is absolutely not. But you have the National Firearms Act 1934, the Gun Control Act of 1968. These are two separate entities that we need to wipe out. And we have never, ever, ever been this close. You're an FFL, Ryan. You want to explain the difference as best as you can?
Yeah, if I look, it's purposely meant to be confusing and difficult to understand. So the NFA will cover things like short barrel rifles, just in simplistic terms, short barrel rifles, short barrel shotguns, silencers, those kinds of things are covered typically under the NFA. Gun Control Act regulated automatic weapons, right? That was really when those things became quote unquote illegal. Right.
Correct. You're correct. You can still buy them, but they are incredibly expensive. And because of that, and then later we had the pre-1986, et cetera, and that's where these things get right. Justin can tell us. Let me hop over to you, Justin. How much would a 1922 Thompson full auto, which you can buy today, how much would that cost me if you had your hands on one and I wanted to buy it legally from you?
Yeah, that's like between 30 and 40 grand.
Yeah.
But that's because they're registered machine guns, If they were taking off registration, they would still be expensive, because a vintage Tommy gun like that would be very collectible. But the difference is we would then be able to make, full auto traditional Tommy guns and sell them to the public if that NFA and the 64 Gun Control Act were removed.
And what would happen to the price?
Well, the price would come down a lot. Well, for the newly manufactured machine guns, there would be, not too much more than what would it cost to make the semi-auto one.
Yeah. Now, Brad, I know you fired tons of full auto weapons, both for business purposes as a combat vet and for fun. And I got to tell you, every range I've been on, every range, with the exception of Daniel Defense Range. Ryan, you were with me with your wife when we were firing the Mark V, I believe it was, full auto SBR. Absolute tremendous amount of fun. We had a blast. But Brad, the one gun that everybody wants, and they've got opportunities to fire the whole range, is the Tommy gun. Everybody goes after the full auto 45 caliber Tommy gun just because it's such a quintessential American full auto gun. People have this nostalgic, almost mythical idea of what that gun is. It shoots like butter because of its weight. It's a 12 to 13 pound gun with the magazine inserted. It's 45 caliber, and it just burps through that thing, and it's a blast. Have you ever fired the Tommy in full auto, Brad? Do we have Brad? Unmute that phone. I know he's there.
Yeah, I'm ashamed to say that I have not.
Oh, get you some.
A Tommy gun on full auto. Like, it's a shame, because I'm gonna tell you, like, so if I had to go down my list of, like, iconic American firearms, we're talking about, like, at least in the 20th century, we're talking about the 1911, the Mod Deuce. We're gonna go the Tommy gun, the Garand,
the BAR,
the M14, and then the BAR and the M16. I mean, that's the list right there. you know. And so,
Brad
like,
used
for
to be
me,
able to
like,
buy a
personally,
BAR in a hardware store.
Sears catalog.
I know, like for $200. You know,
Right.
I know.
Right. You know.
Like,
60.
like I am super pumped about the idea, and I know me and Justin have talked about this. Like I as for personal reasons, I want a paratrooper model Tommy gun. Right? It's the SBR. It's got the stick mag.
Gotta
It's got
have
the
it,
drum
man.
mag. Like for me as a personal, like just as a collector piece and just something to have. Like I need to have one of those, and I'd love to have one in full auto one day.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
we're all
It's
trying to
just
get
a-
Gotta
there,
wrap
brother.
soon.
Hey, man,
30.
Gotta
Yeah.
cut you. We got 30 seconds. We gotta fly. Brad Primo, CEO Lead Slingers, former law enforcement combat vet. We love you, man. Fan favorite for a reason. I wish we had another hour. Justin Moon, CEO of Car Arms, your insight. Fan favorite. Everybody now knows why. Ryan Petty, God bless you for everything that you do. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get up and do this again tomorrow precisely because they don't want us having these conversations, and we're loving these conversations right now. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, what's left of it. Stay safe, and I'll see you on the radio tomorrow.